Tonight, a St. Lucie County deputy who works at the county jail is facing charges after an incident involving an inmate.
Yeah, the sheriff showed surveillance video of that incident in the jailhouse. The deputy, what he did to that inmate whose hands had been cuffed behind his back.
CBS 12's Al Peffley joins us live tonight at the St. Lucie County Jail near Fort Pierce with details. Al?
Liz, we expect members of law enforcement, like all citizens, to follow the law. But the sheriff says in this case, one of his deputies broke the law. And in fact, he describes the deputy's actions as, quote, terrible.
We actually condemn these type of actions. We do not train our deputies to respond this way.
Sheriff's officials say surveillance video from the St. Lucie County Jail shows an incident July 10th where Deputy Brian Shackley's use of force was inappropriate when he threw an inmate down on the floor. The 54-year-old inmate struck his head on the floor, suffering a large gash to his forehead and required 20 stitches.
The inmate is handcuffed and then removed from the cell, brought between the cell and the pod, and thrown on the ground in an unprovoked attack.
The sheriff says deputies are trained to act better than this.
These incidents just tear to the fiber of what we're about. This is not what we're about.
This photo from the sheriff's office Facebook page shows Shackley shaking hands with Sheriff Ken Mascara in 2017 when Shackley was promoted. In the incident July 10th at the jail, the sheriff says the inmate who was facing drug charges wanted to be moved to a different cell because the toilet in his cell was not working and because he was assigned the top bunk but had trouble getting into the bunk because of injuries he suffered while in the Marine Corps.
My understanding is this inmate wanted to be moved from a cell. Shackley didn't want that to happen, but in no way should he have thrown him down on the ground in the manner he did.
The sheriff says after Deputy Shackley threw the inmate on the floor, he later boasted about what he had done. Another deputy who heard the boasting submitted an anonymous complaint about Shackley's use of force, telling the top brass they'd better look into this. According to the arrest report, the anonymous complaint says, quote, "You have a deputy at this jail that beats on inmates and thinks it's funny. He does this regularly and has been for years. This guy needs psychiatric help. Someone is going to get killed if he is not stopped."
Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. This is exactly what we try to prevent, that we instill totally different traits in our deputies on how to respond, how to interact with our inmates, and then to hurt an inmate and boast about it. Yeah, it's not good.
We went to Shackley's address in Fort Pierce trying to reach him for comment. The property manager at the apartment complex where he lives reached him by phone, and Shackley said, quote, "I am not allowed to speak to anybody about the incident at the jail." And 34-year-old Shackley is now on administrative leave without pay. He is free on bond. Sheriff says he joined the sheriff's office back in 2007 and was promoted to sergeant back in 2017, but then he was demoted back to deputy again because a captain had concerns about his interpersonal skills, his field performance, investigative skills, and his leadership and management skills.
Well, a business owner from Boca Raton is on the mend after a car came crashing through his home office, leaving him with serious injuries. Neighbors are now questioning why there isn't more being done to curb the speeding cars in that neighborhood.
Yeah, the neighbors are now questioning that, and as our Lena Salzbank reports tonight, she has the details.
A car came speeding down this street and flew through these trees and then into the side of this home, which is now boarded up.
I just heard like what I thought was an explosion.
Dahlia Lesney quickly ran out of her home and realized it was her neighbor who needed help after a car plowed through his home.
I walked in and I said, "Are you here?" You know, and he was screaming for help. So I couldn't see him. He was like under all of the debris.
This is a look at Gary Schweikart before the crash. He's the former president of Gold Coast PR Council. This is Schweikart after the crash, a face full of bruises and stitches.
I went to visit him in the hospital, and he's a fighter.
After spending time in a coma, he is recovering, but the neighborhood is still rattled by what happened.
To get a stop sign by my house because many of the accidents ended up in my front yard. So it took us years just to get a stop sign in a three-way corner. This whole area is like that. It's out of control, especially at night.
Lisa Hall has lived in this area for 30 years and says too many cars come speeding down these streets with too few patrol cars to stop them.
You really don't see the sheriffs but once in a while, so you don't really see anybody patrolling this, so people can go at any speed until they see like us standing here.
The crash report shows a 67-year-old man was driving 60 in a 30-mile-per-hour zone around the curve when he lost control. Neighbors say Lake Ridge Boulevard is a popular shortcut that locals use to get to 441 to avoid traffic on Yamato Road. It's a time-saving measure that could someday cost someone's life.
It's easy. It's open access. It's like driving on 441. There's your answer. Right there. They're entitled to, I guess. You know.
Days after the crash, the community policing unit with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office teamed up with Home Depot so that they could board up this home. Meanwhile, CBS 12 News reached out to Palm Beach County Traffic Engineering to find out how many crashes actually took place at this site, and we are still waiting to hear back.